Tolakaren, friends and foes, and welcome to the 10th faction preview video for the mod DCI Last Alliance. I am Ngugi, team leader, and on behalf of the team I shall present you the faction of Lothlórien. Lothlórien is a Sylvan Elven faction that is led by King Amdir. Their strengths are that they muster excellent archer and have a versatile infantry, while weaknesses are slow recruitment and rare cavalry. The campaign quest that we are giving you as a challenge is in the short campaign to hold 15 regions and eliminate Mordor, while in a long campaign to hold 30 regions. To begin with, we shall, as usual, go over and have a look at the lore. The elves awoke in the far east at the dawn of the First Age. They were sundered when most decided to move west to go to Valinor across the sea. 3 groups went west, including the Noldor and the Teleri. Those who stayed are known as the Avari. When the Teleri came to the Misty Mountains, some feared its shadows and broke off. These are the Noldor elves, and they spread along the Anduin down to the coast and into Eregion. As is told elsewhere, other Teleri remained in Beleriand, and those are known as the Sindar elves. We will get back to them soon. The Noldor elves who lived along the Anduin river mingled with the Avari elves, those who had rejected the trek to Valinor, and became the primitive but valiant Silvan elves. Despite their Avari heritage, they remained friendly to their Eldar kinsmen, especially the Teleri. On the eastern side, they lived in Eregion, and on the western side they lived in Lindoriand, Vale of the Land of the Singers. In the Second Age it became known as Lorinand, Valley of Gold, which developed into Lothlórien or simply Lórien. The Silvans also lived in a coastal settlement, Adalind. At the end of the First Age, Beleriand sank under the sea, and the Elves of Beleriand, who stayed in Middle-earth, settled in Eregion. Some Sindar elves, who had no love for the Noldor or dwarves, moved east and settled among the Silvan elves. And because the Sindar were much more advanced than the Silvans, the Sindar became princes and leaders. In Lorinand, the Sindar elf known as Amdir became king, and his son was Amroth. In Eregion during the Second Age, the couple of Celeborn and Galadriel were active in encouraging vigilance against the threat that was Sauron, who had arisen as the new Dark Lord. They visited Lorinand and apparently did good in broking peace between its Sindar lords and the Noldor and dwarves, perhaps because the forest was so close to Mordor. When Sauron tried to capture all the rings of power, he destroyed the Noldor realm of Eregion in 1697. Prince Amroth led a Lorinand army who together with the dwarves attacked the forces of Mordor. This saved many elves who retreated from Eregion, including Elrond. Meanwhile, Galadriel brought many survivors from Eregion into Lorinand via Khazad-dûm, and Celeborn came there to bolster its defenses. So it came to be that Lorinand was a kingdom with a majority of Silvan elves, a nobility of Sindar elves, and a minority of Noldor elves. It was Galadriel who brought with her the seeds of Melorn, the golden trees that the forest became known for, but exactly when they became common is hard to know. After Numenor had sunk under the sea and Sauron returned to cover the world in darkness at the end of the Second Age, King Amdir was an ally of Gil-galad, the Noldor High King of Lindon, and very willing to aid the last alliance. His Lothlrien host is perhaps ill-equipped with armor or weapons in comparison with the host of Lindon, but they are hardy and valiant and are eager to lead the charge. And welcome to the strategy map. We are greeted with the custom message that refers to checking the faction information scroll among others, and we are given the usual options to activate the Balrog and or not having Immortal Nazgul in campaign. But we are also playing Lothlórien, meeting this message, the Haven of Adalind. This is describing the settlement along the coast and is there to make sure that you do not forget that it exists. And we will have a look at that quite soon. Now, when you are starting the campaign, you are having two settlements in up here in the north. You have the capital of Galadriel, and you have the wooden castle, the so-called stronghold of Carinlori. And at the coast you have, of course, Adalind, the little settlement. There is in Galadriel, which is a large city, you have a special building that is Malorn, to represent the golden trees who are starting to spread, being planted in the forest at some time before this. The Malorn building grants you and other elves a population growth bonus of 0.5. And you have the same building also in Carinlori, which helped you grow Carinlori to a larger settlement, a larger castle, which is quite rare. Usually castles takes a long time to expand, but it will go a bit faster thanks to the Malorn building. And in the south, when we are looking at Adalind, it starts with a port, and while it has no special building of its own, we might see that while we can construct a couple of different buildings, this is a large town starting as, we do not have the options to construct roads here, and we have made it so because an important reason to why the settlement has been able to remain and prosper has been that it has been isolated and has not been reached by other than elves, so they have no roads to this settlement. In case they want to go somewhere, they might either trek through the wilderness or they would take a boat somewhere. But we have made it so that if a friendly faction, most likely Gondor, capture the region that is around it, Langstrand, Anfalas over here, if that is captured and they build a road here, then Adalind will get a message that now you can construct roads too if you want to. Easy picking at game start. We have Amon Gastal, and this Amon Gastal is also a woodland region, so it will be a better region to hold in order to get recruitment capacity. We had Forod Ninglor to the north, grassland, but it's still okay. In the east we have Roscobel that you may capture before Eringalen, your starting allies are having. You are at very good foot with the Noldor Elves of Lindon, but you do not start with an alliance with them, but you can easily get that as well. And also to the east we have Amon Lang that would make a good capture for you as well, because it is a castle in a woodland region, and again, woodland regions are very good for recruitment for the elves. We are also having the option as Lothlórien to construct a special building, Amon White I think it was named, and this building, as also Eregion can construct, will help to boost and speed up the population growth of Amon Lank, which will aid you, because in the south you will have and see Mordor coming, so you want to have as many recruitment places as you might. We have Brimfoldveg to the south, we have Limelight Fort to the south as well, and Tirith Andrin that you might go for quickly before the expansion of the Men of the Mountains might get there. So you have quite a few directions to expand early on. However, of course, you will have to keep an eye out for the Orcs of the Misty Mountains, who you start at war with, and as noted, Mordor, who you start at war with. So quite a few rascals running around your borders. But it is of course so that with many threats you must also have many ways to counter them, and Lothlórien is starting out with quite a few respectable leaders. In between the two starting settlements we find the faction leader, Regent Amdir, and Amdir is having the ancillary and marking him as the King of Lothlórien. He has a biography of his own, granting him extra hit points and command and other useful stats. He has the special ability known as Moriquendi that greatly increases combat effectiveness, however decreases defense value at the same time, so use it in the charge, but be careful with it. He has exceptional will, so he, as most other here starting generals, can use a Palantiri in case you capture one of those. He has the trait that all elven generals get, the healing arts. It's a special elven trait that grants you +5 battle surgery, so you can keep your forces alive more easily. And he is all in all a good commander to send against your foes. To the left we here find the heir, the Amroth character. He is the commander of the Galadrim. He has a biography of his own as well, granting him 5 hit points and extra bonuses. He likewise has a special ability, the Light of Elbereth, and he has other beneficial traits, but nothing special to point out here. He is a great commander together with using this commander of the Galadrim ancillary, of course. Then we are looking at Celeborn, and Celeborn is having the Star Glass ancillary, granting popularity, public order and morale for troops in battle. He has a biography of his own, giving him 6 hit points and some plus command and respect and loyalty and other such things. He has a special ability known as Blood of Doriath that improves defense. He dislikes dwarves because that is one of his few shortcomings. But he also despises Mordor, so if you fight Mordor he will get +1 against them, and both these people are potential targets when Celeborn is out roaming. And then we are having his wife Artemis Galadriel. Galadriel is having the Nenya ancillary, and Nenya is one of the rings of power. The Ring of Power do not have an effect of its own. Instead we are referring to see the Elven Ring trait, so the ancillary grant you a trait, and we can start looking at that. The Elven Ring is at this time unworn because Sauron is having the one ring still, so she cannot use her own ring, Nenya, meaning that the only thing it offers is +2 approval, which increases the public order. However, if Sauron is killed, if he loses his one ring, then this trait will change into a better trait, a much better trait. So if you can help kill Sauron, you will see that Galadriel's capacity as a governor is greatly increased. She is not starting with any command, however she despises Mordor, so if she comes up against Mordor, she will get one in command against them. And her biography grants her some hit points and quite a lot of respect and loyalty and tradition and such useful traits for her in the role as a governor. If you are playing as Lothlórien, you can move her around as a commander as you please. However, when the AI is Lothlórien, she is locked to Caras Galadon and will not move from the settlement until Lothlórien has been besieged. Then she might move out into the world. Oh, and let's not forget the General of Adalind. We are here having Eregion of Adalind. He is having an ancillary that marks this lordship. He is granted +1 in law for that, but also when he is, as it's known, the title carries more weight in Adalind, so the bearer has additional bonuses via a trait of the same name when he is in Adalind. So since Eregion is currently in Adalind, he also has the Lord of Adalind trait, which grants him +1 tradition and +1 morale for all troops in battle. So he always gets +1 law thanks to his ancillary, but since he is at home he gets some extra bonuses. Then he has a special ability, Power of Ulmo, that grants an improved defense and lower the enemy morale, also however exhausting afterwards. He dislikes Harad, so in case the Black Numenorians or their followers is jumping ashore, he gets an extra defense against those. Otherwise he is quite casual. He's also of course having the healing arts ancillary. While we are having the situation where Amdir was the father of Amroth, we are not having any family tree for Lothlórien. Instead, Lothlórien is a so-called Teutonic family tree, aka there is no family tree, but the inheritance is given to the commander, the general who is having most in command. And the difference here is that, or rather the rationale here is that while Amdir was king and his son inherited it, we know of no other children of Amdir, and Amroth chose never to wed, and instead in the lore history the lordship and rule of Lothlórien was given to Celeborn and Galadriel after Amroth had died in turn. So it is rather an elective realm, elective rulership, than that we are. Oh, of course. Let me see here if we have. Not mentioned, but Nimrodel of course is mentioned here. So Amroth wouldn't marry because he was in love with Nimrodel, who would not marry. So we have made it so that there is no family tree for Lothlórien. However, it also meant that we could use and apply Galadriel as a general without any risk of the female general getting into the family tree and marry other women and getting children, so it has that benefit as well. The culture of Lothlórien is the hosts of the West culture that you share with the Eregion and Lindon and Numenorean kingdoms, because it is the last alliance culture. Now, it allows you to join a Tolakarn when that is invoked, and a Tolakarn is the counter invasions that is used by the last alliance to bring coordinated attacks against enemy settlements. And since you are a host of the West, you can join it. However, as if we press Shift F1 and look at the faction information scroll, if you have both joined a Tolakarn and is allied to both the Numenorean kingdoms and the Kingdom of Lindon, you will be provided a herald who, through a little quest, will be able to call Tolakarns himself. So join a Tolakarn, ally with both the founding fathers of the last alliance, and then you will, by sending your agent, the herald you get on a little quest, be able to invoke Tolakarns yourselves, and in that manner you can wield quite a lot of influence on the world military politics in Middle-earth. Now, before we move on, and so I do not forget it, we saw here quickly the Lowland Militia. And the Lowland Militia is a basic spearmen unit. It is, however, an AOR, area of recruitment unit, that is only available in the 2 starting settlements. So if we look at the barrack here, we can see that we have the border swordsmen, but we also have the Loren Militia. The militia unit is thus able to help you at the start of the game to expand a little, but they are not the unit that you will rely on in any manner in your worldwide expansion. Instead, the unit that you get from barracks at start is, as noted, the border swordsmen, and those are the units that you will get from barracks around the world. Indeed, this militia unit, Loren Militia, is replaced once you upgrade your barracks to the Loren Spearmen that you also can get in other parts of the world. But at game start, in order to defend your home region and make the early expansion, you get that militia unit as a booster. And another unit that is a bit restricted is, if we look at the port down in Adalind, you have the Sylvan Mariner, who is a special unit that is only available in coastal regions once you have constructed a port. So if we are looking at Cavalry, you can here construct a port, however it will not grant you neither ships nor the mariners. The mariners are tied to coastal regions. But here in Cavalry we can also have a quick look at the last special condition for a unit that is of interest. We are having here the barracks, of course, in normal manner, but we also have the Noldor quarters. And as you might remember, in Lothlorien there were a minority of Noldor living, and if you have constructed a barrack or an army barracks, depending on whether it's a civil or military settlement, but these provides you with the Noldor Warriors, who are heavy swordsmen, and you will have good use of them fighting especially Mordor. and it also grants you an experience bonus of units trained in the settlement with a +1. So this building will be a beneficial addition to your barracks that you construct. With all of that seen, we shall move on to the battlefields, and I shall show you first the generals and then the roster units. However, I already now note that Galadriel, who you might have seen in older previous previews, we have shown her many years ago already. She was intended to be shown here and now, but we just got word from our great modeler Lois Lux that he will provide us with a brand new Galadriel battle model, so we will make an extra preview of her further on, but for now we will have a look at the male generals of the Lothlorien faction. And so we encounter the craftsmanship of Earl of Memory, and the first unit we are looking at here is the generic Bodyguard. And the generic Bodyguard is a great example of the melt pot culture that is Lothlorien, where the outfit is in the Noldor design, but with the aesthetics of the Sindar elves, with silver and steel instead of gold, which the Sindar prefer, and also of course the axes that is a Sindar tradition. So the Noldor brings one part, the Sindar brings another, and they make a new result unique to this faction. They are heavy shock infantry with 12 attack and a charge bonus of 8, effective against armor with a bonus against cavalry, and with 22 in total defense, of which armor makes up 13, so they can survive melee quite well. However, you of course always have the risk of losing a general if you send him into the fray. But you will have good use of these bodyguard units, especially early on when you are fighting against the heavy hordes of Mordor and say the Black Numenoreans and the better units from Orcs of the Misty Mountains. And here we of course are having the generic bodyguard model. He is having a white mantle as the bodyguards, but he is instead having a golden armor and a sword, so he is not he will be easy to find if you are looking for your general on a battlefield. And since this is Kirion, we can also here see his Hand of Ulmo special ability. Then behind him, with the same bodyguard, Sindar bodyguard, we are looking at Celeborn, and Celeborn is having the silver armor instead of the golden armor of Lothlorien generals commonly, and he is of course having the silver hair that was a trait of his himself and of his kinsmen like Thingol and Círdan and other members of the royal Sindar family. He is having the special ability of Blood of Doriath in this tradition. Behind Celeborn we have the custom and oh, that lacks a card, my bad. But we have the Loren bodyguards who are archers, and this is the bodyguard of Amroth, and Amroth is having a special custom model here with a green mantle and a more shall we say the more brazen armor, The Loren and Bodyguards are having a melee attack of 8, but of course they make best use of their missile attack, that is 6 very much in this game, and they have a total defense of 19 with 12 in armor, so they can take on enemies in melee as well. These are similar to the Loren and archers that we will have a closer look on when we are checking the roster. And finally, also with the Sindar bodyguard, is the king himself, who is having a slightly different model from the generic one. Let's move on to the battlefield and have a look at the roster in total. And with the roster in front of us, we first experience here the barrack units infantry. And we are here looking at the militia in person. The militia, as noted, requires Lothlorien to be recruited. They are light spearmen, and as spearmen goes, they get a bonus fighting cavalry. They are, however, also expert at hiding in wood and can form a tangile, that is the Skiltrom formation. They have an attack of 5 with a charge bonus of 6. They have a total defense of 10 with 0 armor, but 5 defense skill and 5 shield and block, making them good at taking on enemies from the front, but keep their flanks safe and do never let the enemy attack them in the back, because then they get sliced into pieces. But they are a good support unit for your host. Then we have, and these guys are of course having the Cloaks of Lothlórien, the generic first unit you get, the border swordsmen. They can hide anywhere. They are swordsmen with attack of 9 and a charge bonus of 5, total defense of 11, 4 armor, 4 defense and 3 shield and block. You might find that this, as a first unit available to a faction, is a very heavy unit. However, in our experience with fronts both to the north and to the south, you will still have to fight quite a bit to maintain your survival and to be able to expand. I will just start up the battle a little so you can here see how they look in action. Some splendid work here by Earl of Memory as well. Personally I love these guys, and of course, since they can hide anywhere, they give you quite a lot of tactical options when you are on the battlefield. You can position them and then make ambushes against the enemy units when they have passed by, so you can make your life much easier, making good use of their ability to hide anywhere, simply enough. Then we are having here the Sylvan Mariners, and the Sylvan Mariners, as noted, requires coastland. They are having a missile attack of 8 because they are wielding a javelin that they throw at their foes, and could also note that they are having more upgrades than usual. I think they have 3 levels, and they will upgrade to better armors when you do that. They have a melee attack of 4, they are swordsmen, and they have a total defense of 7 with 2 armor, so they are light infantry, but with the ability of decimating the enemy before melee is engaged. They can help you quite a lot against even heavy opponents. And of course, if the enemy is bringing cavalry or Muma kills or something like that, the javelins are always coming to good use. And finally, just as the border swordsman, we are looking here at the border axeman, who is the next generic tier. And these guys are, of course, being axemen, effective against armor, having a slight bonus fighting cavalry, with the awesome ability to hide anywhere. Their attack is 8, the charge bonus is 8. Try to get in behind the enemy and charge into their back. Even the heavy legions of Mordor will suffer quite a bit from this. And the total defense is 12, 5 armor, but this also do mean that they do not rely so much as armor, making them capable against, say, trolls who are using armor piercing. So they can, since they rely almost as much on defense skill as they do on armor, they will not be so, their benefit, the armor piercing benefit of, say, trolls or axe wielding orcs is not so great against these lighter infantry units. Behind them we are looking at the cavalry unit of Lothlórien, and this is the only cavalry unit you get. These are swordsmen cavalry, so as you will see, their shock is not so great. They are also, you would say, almost a support unit who can be brought into the fray where the need is great, but you should not rely on them as a shock unit. They are having an attack of 8 with a charge bonus of 5. They have a total defense of 16 with 6 armor. But they are not so light that you should only use them to like capture fleeing enemies or something like that. But you will not want to use them to try to break up an enemy line either. You have to use these guys more carefully than so, but you will praise them a lot because cavalry is always useful in battle. Then, of course, being elves are known as archers, and the first unit of archers you get are the border archers, and these guys are expert at hiding in woods, and they're having a missile attack of 4. They also have a melee attack of 4, so they can fight with small swords, but their total defense with 0 armor of course makes them less than ideal to send against melee opponents. And the next unit are akin to this is the March Wardens, akin of course to the border axemen. These guys can also hide anywhere, and they are having a 5 missile attack, a melee attack of 6. They are having a total defense of 6 with 2 armor, so keep them away from melee. However, of course, having such a great capacity to hide and having a strong missile attack, they are great to position behind, or rather on the side of your main forces, and once the enemy has passed by, you send them forward and shoot the enemy units in their back. And finally we are looking here at the top tier archer unit. These, again I have forgotten to add that image, my bad. But the Loren archers are having a heavy outfit. They are having a missile attack of 6 because the Lothlórien bows are renowned, but they also have a melee attack of 6 when they bring swords, and can have a charge of 6, so they are not they have capacity in melee, and with a total defense of 17 and armor 11 they can take some beatings, but of course you do not want to waste your great archers on such a petty task as melee fighting. The Loren Spearmen is actually thus the unit that's replaced the militia. But the Loren Spearmen, and again I can see here that I've forgotten to add the image, so in these cases just blame me. These Spearmen are good against cavalry. They have a 9 attack, 6 charge and 21 in total defense, of which armor is 10, but and they have 10 in shield and block. However, defense is only 1. They are a good anvil if you are using other troops as a hammer. However, since they are having so much dependence on armor, they must be careful when fighting against units that are having armor piercing. They are having a slightly purple mantle in their cases. Also, like to them is the Loren and Cleavers. The Loren and Cleavers are having an attack of 10 with a charge bonus of 7. They are having a bonus fighting cavalry and are more so effective against armor. So these guys are those you really want to bring up and throw at your foes as you get mid and late game. However, of course, they are not very many. This is a huge size and I have only 116 of them. Still, of course, they are very great with 20 defense, 10 armor, still 2 defense and 8 shield and block. So be careful against other armor piercing units, but send them against heavy armored infantry and alike. Then we are looking at the, shall we call them, Foreign Legion, I almost said, but they are, of course, they are also living in Lothlórien. These are the Noldor Warriors, who you get from the Noldor Quarters building. As said, they are swordsmen with shields, straight swords for those who like that, but with a slight curve in the manner of Stingsay. The Noldor Warriors, they can make a shield wall. They have an attack of 14 with a charge bonus of 5, total defense 25 with 12 armor, 3 defense skill, 10 shield and block. So very good at handling opponents in the front, can take all-round beatings thanks to the grand armor, but they should be careful when fighting against armor-piercing enemies. And finally, the unit not made by Earl of Memory. As you recognize, we are here having the Smiths of Eregion. Once more, my bad, no card. But these guys are effective against armor, of course, wielding enchanted hammers. These are the Smiths, do require Imladris, Karad, Galadon or Ostin Edil, so you can recruit them in 3 places. They are available from the smithy buildings, so not the barracks, but these are smiths in the tradition of Eregion, and they are, as you might recall, I said that survivors were brought to Lothlórien with Galadriel. We imagine that some of these survivors were smiths, not master smiths of Eregion, but still capable men of their trade who are murderers on the battlefield. 16 attack, 7 charge bonus, total defense of 25, 13 armor, 4 defense and 8 shield and block. So quite rare, quite expensive, but they can slaughter. I've enjoyed to see them fighting bulldogs, for example. They are worthy foes. And last, we are once again having the Bodyguard, but I just wanted to show you the captain model, who is also having the bronze golden armor, but is having a blue mantle instead. So that was the faction of Lothlórien. Hope you have enjoyed it if you have viewed it all, and we are wishing you a very good goodbye.